What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here, fresh out of the car from a 3-hour drive back from Fort Wayne, Indiana. This weekend was the B Sports Show out in the fort. That is the promoter of the Shipshewana show that I try to regularly attend, just kind of depending on the schedule of things. He does a fall show in Fort Wayne. That's about 45 minutes closer for me. So I was able to sneak out to that today. I did shoot some footage. I haven't looked at it yet, so there will most likely be a quick little vlog from that video out into the wild. But I got to double check the tape, make sure everything looks good and clean. Show was fairly busy. I've never been to this show before. This is the second time that they ran it. The venue, and you'll see it in the footage, assumingly that it goes live. The way that the venue is set up, the aisles are very wide, and that kind of tricks your eye into how busy a show feels because you have tons of room to move around versus it feeling cramped, even if there's less people in there, makes it feel like the show is way busier. I will say I've heard from multiple people the Dallas show was also this weekend, and I heard Dallas was absolutely wild. The videos on social make it look like it seemed like it was packed. I've seen a few comments on some other social places that said that show was packed as well. But I had a good time in a fort, picked up a really cool card. I bought, I believe, my first one of one. I am almost positive it is my first one of one. I don't think I've ever owned a one of one before. I've owned like out of fives and things like that, but I don't think I've ever actually owned a one of one. I've posted it on social, so if you follow me over on Instagram or Twitter, it's up on there. I'll probably do a video talking about that card as well. I also show it in the vlog after I snagged it. It is a one of one from a new release product. I will leave it at that. But I had a great time out there. If you could get to one of Brad's shows, I highly recommend it. He is a fantastic promoter and just brings in some insane. He had a great dealer lineup for this show. Ryan from Card Collector 2 was set up. Andy from Indie Card Exchange was set up. Logan from Great Sports. JT from Triple Crown. McCracken Cards. I mean, there are just tons of A-list Midwest dealers were set up at this show. Really good inventory. Prices, as always, were what you would expect. Hit or miss. Some dealers are priced correctly. Some dealers are over comps. You are going to see that left, right, and center. I wanted to get a single jumbo box of Hobby Update, but they were all super overpriced, in my opinion. They were 300 plus, and they're regularly doing like 270-ish, 280 on eBay, it looked like. So I passed on that. I did get some of the Fanatics exclusive blaster boxes in the mail, so we'll probably open those maybe later this week on the channel. But before we dive too deep into this week's weekly sports card market update, shout out to channel partner Comc.com, sponsor of the weekly sports card market update. I actually just bought a ton of cards on Comc. I gotta get them, gotta get things situated to figure out what I want to ship home and whatnot. But I finished building. I'd already started it. A set. That's right. I built a set. I know. It's crazy. And the entire set is numbered. The whole set, all 80 cards are numbered. 81 cards, I think it is, are numbered in the entire set of this particular card. So we'll show that in an upcoming video later this month. But Comc for set building, oh my goodness, so easy. I went through what I already had, checked it off on a spreadsheet, then went through what I needed to find, and then just looked them up on Comc. Went right down the list, bing, 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 bing. Submitted some offers on some cards that were a little bit higher priced. Checked them off as people accepted. It was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic experience for set building. So if that's something you're into, go check out our friends over at Comc.com. They have pretty much everything you could possibly think of. Sports, non-sports, TCG, comic books, the whole 9 yards. First up today, in the little bit of the newsy front, talked about the Fort Wayne show already. Brad will be announcing the details on the upcoming March Shipshawana show very shortly. If they're not up already by the time this video posts, he usually does a wrap-up post shortly after the conclusion of one of his shows. And I have a sneaking suspicion the March Shipshawana show is going to be massive. Absolutely massive. So keep your eyes peeled for that if you live in the Midwest. Try to get out to that show. The Ohtani 1/1 was pulled. I got mine in the mail this week. Obviously, I did not have the 1/1. I just had my base cards. This popped up on social this week. This is from the 50/50 club. It is a redemption. You can see the redemption posted online here. Pulled earlier this week. Someone posted about it on Reddit, of all places. But the Ohtani 1/1 with the 50/50 club inscription has been pulled. I have a batch of tops now getting ready to come back from the Indians playoff run. I have the Joe Kenzie Noel instant. I have the Lane Thomas instant. And then I think one other one. I'll have to double check. I thought there was 3 different ones that I bought. But I'll have to see. But those are on their way to, one of them shipped already. I don't know if they've all shipped or not. They're all due to ship around the same time. So hopefully I can pull something cool from those. But the 1/1 Ohtani is off the board. The Olympic triple auto, still in the wind. One of the hobby's greatest unsolved mysteries at this point in time is, where does that card reside? Where is it hiding at? Topps has confirmed that it is not, the redemption has not been redeemed yet. So we'll see where that thing ends up turning up. Is it sitting on one of those packs on eBay? Who knows? Who knows where it is? Did it get lost in the mail? Is it just like bouncing around between Oklahoma and Maine or something crazy? One day we'll find out. Well, maybe we will. Be interesting to see what they would do if no one ever actually claims it. I did a video on this yesterday. Monthly grading numbers came out from our old pal Ryan over at GemRate. Monster numbers. If you want a full detailed breakdown on this, go watch Saturday's video in regards to this. But just absolutely insane numbers at 1.45 million for PSA. And then a record breaking across the month. Good old Beckett down there in 4th place, looking like shambles of the company that they once were. I mentioned it in yesterday's video. I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper on that 50K number. So depending on the data, maybe you'll get a little updated video on Beckett later this week. New release chit chat. Bowman University went up for pre-order this past week, and it's sold out now, but it actually stayed up for quite a while. This one did not get immediately wiped out. This is Bowman University Chrome. I am not like the biggest college football person in the world. I watched Ohio State, Penn State. That was on my drive back from the Fort Wayne show. I paid attention to that. But I'm not in the weeds on college football, so I don't know like who all the big prospects are per se. So I don't know if this was a case of the checklist being a little meh. I mentioned to some people that I know that, do pay close attention to college football. They made it seem like the checklist was a little weak. I don't have any personal take on that because I just don't have the knowledge base for it. So feel free to spout off in the comments down below. I believe hobby boxes were like 129. Jumbos were 200. Hobbies had 2 autos per box. Jumbos were 3 autos per box. It actually seemed like a pretty good deal. Generally speaking, in the past, say what you will about Bowman Chrome University, these typically tend to be pretty fun boxes to rip. I know I ripped the Sapphire version of this like 2 years ago, and it was a really fun rip experience. Especially when you're talking about 129 for a hobby box with 2 autos in it. That's not terrible. I mean, and I'm putting that in through the lens of today's wax prices. I get, yeah, sure. Back in the day, a jumbo box of blah, blah, blah used to be $45. Sure. And gas was 99 cents. But if you're comparing it to actual other wax releases, seems like a fairly reasonable product, given that at least it is licensed college football. So that was out and quickly got wiped out. The full release will be coming shortly. We're about a week away from getting Topps Chrome update. I am still hoping to get some boxes of that. I completely whiffed on the hobby box release because I was at New York Comic Con and not paying attention to my phone. That being said, I did grab some of these. These are up on Fanatics right now. These are the mega boxes. So these have the X Fractors in them. Obviously, the big chase in update is going to be the debut patches. I don't believe these are in the mega boxes. I think that's a hobby box exclusive. But I do plan on getting at least some hobby boxes of that product to open up. I actually have probably about $200, maybe $250 in MVP buyback cards that I plan on using for that. I'll run up to All Pro Sports and cash those in for a box on the MVP buyback. Maybe grab a jumbo, maybe grab a Breaker's Delight or something. I usually like to get something I wouldn't typically buy with the MVP buyback credit. So last year I got the Breaker's Delight box. Maybe I'll do that again because that's not something I would generally want to spend like $4 or $5 or however much they are, a couple $100 on. But if I could get a huge chunk of it off, I'll take the flyer on it with the MVP buyback bucks. But I did snag, I think, about 4 of these to open up. So we'll see what those are all about. Obviously, Skeens will be the big chase out of that product. Let's go ahead and dive into market movers. A link in the description down below. Look at some charts and graphs on some stuff. It actually was a pretty slow news week this week, or maybe I'm missing something obvious, but it seemed like a ton of stuff happened this week compared to most. So with that being said, let's dive into the charts and graphs. Like I said, link in the description down below. If you want to play around with charts and graphs on your own, you can get a couple weeks for free, and you can get 20% off for life. First up, Jared Goff. I did the video on football and how it all went to 0 and it all sucks. So people mentioned that, oh, you forgot Jared Goff. I didn't forget Jared Goff. I ran the charts from 2017 up, from Mahomes up. I just did not include 2016 and earlier. But I did go back. I pulled up Jared Goff's cards. He is having an obviously great season. The Lions look fantastic. He's up 26%, give or take, on his PSA 10 silver. Pretty low pop on this at 600. Obviously, 2016 product is a lot more lower printed than by today's standards. So I'm actually a little surprised this isn't up more, just given the pop counts and how well he's playing. And they look, like I said, they look absolutely great. But Goff is still not getting a ton of love. But when you consider, I guess, that most football is in the toilet, the fact that he's up 30%, I guess maybe is a bigger win than it sounds, given that everything else is flat to completely crashing. The fact that it is actually up 30% probably is a pretty good win. But Jared Goff having a great start to the season. I did want to take another quick look at old CJ Stroud. His stuff dropped about another $50 after Thursday Night Football. My God, what an ugly game. And can we please get the Jets off primetime football? I am sick of watching Aaron Rodgers and the Jets on primetime football. It feels like they're on 3 times a weekend. It's getting out of control. But Stroud really struggled in that game. I don't even think he got to 200 yards passing. He desperately needs Nico Collins back, and his card prices have slipped again. They were at around 600. They're now down to about 550, as the hype has completely worn off Dakota's boy, former content creator, Sports Cards Anonymous, big CJ Stroud fan. His boy needs to get it together because he looks absolutely hideous right now without Nico. Need to get him back. But Stroud stuff is definitely flatlining for sure, as all the love moves towards Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and the next future 5-time Super Bowl champions that the hobby has already crowned. Switching over to baseball for a minute, the Dodgers finished off the World Series. Freddie Freeman, your World Series MVP, had a fantastic World Series. I just pulled up his base Topps Chrome here, PSA 10. Nice little bounce up for this card, up 86%. This card was going for about $175-ish, is well over 300 now. PSA 10 pop only 420 on a base PSA 10 Chrome. It is absolutely wild. This is dating all the way back to 2011, so clearly the population counts, the print runs, etc., were way lower back then. Freeman, an absolutely outstanding player, has had an amazing career. Speaking of talk about Mookie Betts for a second. Wins another World Series. This is his PSA 10 first Bowman 2014. Just a base Bowman auto. Pop 206. So very low pop. PSA 9's a 190. PSA 10 goes for around 1.2 to 1.5K. It's actually down slightly since the World Series win, of course. I just want you to keep this price in mind. When we get to the spring, fast forward 5 months from now, we're in March. We're at the beginning of March. February heading into March. And everyone's freaking out over Charlie Condon or, some other young prospect that no one's ever heard of before. And their PSA 10 first Bowman auto is going for insane prices. Think back to this moment and what Mookie Betts' first Bowman goes for in a fraction of the population count. And then go look at what Mookie Betts has done in his career. It's absolutely insane. The numbers and the awards that this dude has. And then look at that price and compare it to the guy that just got off the school bus from his college team or whatever. And look at what that sells for. Just let those two numbers marinate for a minute. And keep this moment in mind, because it's absolutely wild. I'm not saying, run out and buy Mookie Betts. I'm saying think about the 18-year-old kid that you're spending $2,000 on his first Bowman auto, that what he would need to achieve to actually maintain that price. And then go look at Mookie Betts' career, and odds are not even going to come close to what Mookie's done. And Mookie's obviously not done. He's got a long way to go, but I just always find that interesting when you look back at these star players, at what their stuff goes for. Freddie Freeman's another perfect example. He has not had a PSA 10 auto sale in a hot minute, but his first Bowman autos go for a little bit more than Mookie, but they're also a lot older, smaller, even smaller population counts. But they look like a steal compared to what Wyatt Langford stuff was selling for last year. Just absolutely wild. And Wyatt Langford would be blessed if he had a career 70% as good as Freddie Freeman's has been. So just kind of keep that stuff in mind. Quick check-in on Ohtani. This is PSA 10, just as popular refractors. We have the base refractor, we have the prism, and we have the pink from 2018 Topps Chrome. Little to no movement over the last 30 days, even with the World Series win. As always, someone winning a championship does not guarantee price movement. In a lot of cases, you actually see a price decline. More so in football and basketball because it's so player focused. Otani had a meh World Series. He obviously got injured in the one game, and I don't know that he was ever right after that. We'll see what happens next season. Obviously, he had an outstanding season during the regular season. Going to win the NL MVP. The wild card for him next year will be the pitching. Can he get back on the mound, maintain success, and maintain health, most importantly, and continue to hit? If he can pull that off and regain the true unicorn status, maybe he sees another level up in pricing. But him getting back on the mound again also adds some risk in regards to the injury bug. So we'll see what happens with Ohtani. Probably be a relatively quiet offseason for him and his card prices as he's settled in. The biggest one to watch, in my opinion, when it comes to offseason stuff is going to be where does Soto go? And, does he re-up with the Yankees? If he locks in with the Yankees for long term, does Soto get a price bump? If he goes to a new team, does he get a price bump? I don't really know. Usually you see a little bit of a bump just based off the news. I don't know what's better, him staying with the Yankees or him going to a different squad. There's been talk of the Dodgers making a run at him, which would be insane. I think it's between the Yankees and the Mets. If no MLB insider reporter, but it feels like he's destined to go to one of those two teams. I love Soto the player. I cannot stand him on the Yankees, so I would not be sad to see him switch teams. I think from a card perspective, it's probably better that he stays on the Yankees from a pure card price perspective. If he signs there long term, is probably a bigger win if you're holding a bunch of his stuff. So we will see how that plays out. Last but not least, let's talk a little bit basketball. We'll keep this one a little bit on the shorter side as I have had a very long day. Sad story. Paolo Banchero. Absolutely insane start to the NBA season, and unfortunately is now out for a month and a half, or reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks, so he might not even be back. His card prices were basically flat over the last 30 days. He got a pretty decent run up in the off season, from the end of last season until the beginning of this season. His stuff's up quite a bit. His prices haven't dropped yet. I don't know that the injury's really been reflecting in his pricing at this point in time, but just kind of sad to see. The Magic were off to a very strong start, and he was playing very well. I was actually really looking forward to the Magic at Cavs game on Friday night, when he was supposed to roll into town for that rematch from the playoffs last year, and then he ended up getting declared out for a month right before that game. Speaking of my Cleveland Cavaliers, it's part of the reason why I got to wrap this video. I'm getting ready to go watch them play the Bucks. Off to an insane start to the season. Just an insane start to the season. I'm so glad to have basketball back. Victor, down ever so slightly. He's currently sitting at $800 for a Silver Prism PSA 10. Kind of a sluggish start to the season. He's not shooting well. Everything else is going great, but he's just not shooting that great. And the Spurs are just not a complete basketball team. It's going to take them a couple of years to get everything figured out in their rebuild. I would imagine his stuff's going to continue to slip unless he just goes on a mammoth run. It's just kind of what we see. He had a lot of expectations on him coming into this season. The team is not that good. It was going to be a stretch for them to make the playoffs or the play-in even. And he is struggling a little bit to start the season. Like I said, he's not playing like absolutely terrible. He's struggling with the shot a little bit. So we'll see if he can get that falling. But I do think his card prices are going to struggle a little bit out of the gates. So we'll see what happens there. As always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. Some things to look forward to upcoming this week in regards to content. I should have a Fort Wayne Show vlog style video up at some point in time. Like I said, I got to check the footage on that. I have some Topps Update Fanatics exclusive blasters to open up. I kind of want to open those live. I have 4. That's kind of too much for a regular video. It's kind of not enough for a live, so we'll see what happens. I would like to kind of redig into those Beckett numbers. So that's a preview for what possibly could be coming up. None of that stuff's actually recorded. We will see. Sometimes the week starts and then chaos ensues and it throws everything off the rails. But that's at least some of the videos that are bouncing around in my head for this upcoming week. That is all I got for you. Enjoy your Sunday of football. We're in November now, fast approaching to the holiday season. Crazy times. Should be a wild week in the real world as it is election week. So good luck out there. Everybody stay safe. Be careful. Don't do anything stupid regardless of what you're doing. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.